Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Today we have a very special episode for you, a compilation of some of the greatest entitled parent stories we read over the past year. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a few hours of the most entitled parents you've ever heard of. And by the way, Karen assured me that if this video gets 1,000 likes, she won't try to speak to anyone's manager for an entire week. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. And become an official member of the Army today, and I'll give you a shout out in an upcoming video. r/Entitled Parents. Entitled aunt stays with me and husband. Makes us both angry. Hello, Mr. Reddit and the Army. I'm a longtime fan and decided to post this recent story. English is my first language, so please feel free to correct any spelling errors. I'm also on mobile, so I'm sorry for formatting. Some backstory. I have an aunt who is very entitled and mean. She has 2 spawns of her own. They're 6 and 5, and she despises my twin daughters. My husband has never liked her, and neither have I. She usually stays for a week every month or 2. The cast. We've got me. We've got husband. We've got Aunt Karen. We've got Spawn 1 and Spawn 2. Lydia and Luna, 2 daughters. The story. I was preparing for Aunt Karen's visit when she already came to the door, 2 hours early. My husband was outside working on the backyard while I was inside doing housework. Hello! I told you I would be coming at 4. Why isn't anything prepared? You said you were coming for 6. And could you please keep your voice down? During this time, Lydia and Luna were taking a nap in their room and would get very cranky if someone woke them up. I see Aunt Karen's kids run down the hall, making a lot of noise. I cringed and prayed the twins would not wake up. Me. What did I just say? Keep it down. I don't want to wake up the babies. My daughters are both 1. Spawn 1. Do you have anything fun? This place is boring. Spawn 2. Yeah, find something for us to play with. Find something fun for them, now. At this time, my husband comes walking inside and notices Aunt Karen. He knows she's already causing trouble. Husband. Aunt Karen, she's asked before. Please keep it down or the kids will wake up. If they need entertainment, get them a book. I can't get them the Nintendo Switch out since it's still packed away in boxes. Don't talk to me or my kids like that, young man. Know your manners. I see my husband cringe as Lydia and Luna both wake up and are now crying. I run into their room and calm them down easily and let them wander around and play. My husband watched them while I was in the kitchen making dinner, and then one of the spawns started bugging me. What are you doing? I'm making dinner for everyone. Duh. Why can't you go and buy it? I'm hungry now. It won't take long. Have some patience. I walk back into the living room where I see Spawn 2 making Lydia angry. She was just learning to walk. She hates getting help, and the brat shoved her down. Husband. Hey, why did you do that? She never did anything to you. Don't be mean. Aunt Karen storms over to husband and smacks his head. If she wasn't angry before, she was now. How dare you talk to him like that? He was just playing. Now, when Lydia gets scared or shy, she crawls or walks over and gets me or her dad to pick her up. And that's exactly what she did. I lifted her up and scooped her into my arms, and she fell asleep quickly. I walked her back into her room and set her down in her crib to take another nap. She sleeps a lot, and I see Aunt Karen's spawns glaring at me. Why did you put her in there? Lydia fell asleep, so I put her in her crib for a nap. Please do not bug her. Even though she sleeps a lot, she's still a light sleeper. Fine. This place is still boring. husband calling out from the living room, "Read a book and quit complaining." A few hours later, I was in the living room watching my kids when Aunt Karen comes out with a ton of snacks that I bought. She went into a rage when she saw the way my kids were playing.
Wow, how can you even be a parent if you're raising your kids to be that violent? You are a terrible mother.
I know I was raising my kids right. My daughters love to play wrestle with each other, and it never gets bad. Me. And you're any better? Teaching your kids to be annoying and greedy?
Don't talk to your elders like that.
Okay, senior citizen. Aunt Karen got so angry, she left 2 days early. But her kids got harsh with my kids. On the last night, my husband was out for a car ride with Luna while Lydia stayed with me. The two spawns ended up scaring her after she ratted them out to me. The first thing she could think of was to yell her first word.
Mama!
When I heard that yell, all I did was bolt into that room and screamed at the two spawns and kicked Aunt Karen and her spawn out. They are never bothering me again. Next we've got Lifeguard equals babysitter. Good afternoon, Mr. Reddit and the Army. I love your videos on YouTube. Feel free to use this one if you choose to. Today, I was reminded of my time as a lifeguard as I drove past my old workplace, and boy has it changed. Too long didn't read at bottom, and sorry for the length. From the age of 15 to 17, I worked as a lifeguard at a resort, which is in reality an RV and campground that is members only and open year-round. We had an outdoor man-made beach and indoor pool, a pro shop for the putt-putt and tennis equipment, bumper boats, and a water slide, all of which us lifeguards oversaw. Because it is members only, you can imagine the entitlement of said members. Bonus to working there, however, is being able to bring guests on days off. Now, my manager and the owner of this resort knew, even at 15, I did not take crap from anyone, and very little intimidated me. They also knew I was a smarty and would follow exactly what was asked of me, such as the owner once shaking an empty soda can at me and asking me to bring another. He got another empty soda can, but I digress. Our rules were clear. Kids 10 and under had to have a parent with them. Under 6, they had to be in the water with them if they could pass a swim test. Many parents tried to just leave the kids since there was also the no alcohol at the beach. One parent, however, wins the Mom of the Day award. This mother placed her 2-year-old twin boys at the base of my chair. They were adorable and well-behaved. Then she left hurriedly before anyone could call her back to her kids. Great, one of these. I radio another lifeguard to relieve me, and luckily this chair is very close to the pro shop, so another guard came right over. I told them the situation, then jumped off the chair as they briefly took over. I took both boys and all their toys and took them to the manager at the clubhouse. I explained the situation to him. He took over watching them. I am not a personal babysitter. An hour and a half later, I am back at the chair where she dropped them off. We rotated every 15 minutes from the beach to the pro shop, so the cast is easy enough. Me, entitled mom, and manager. Entitled mom, not seeing her kids, comes running up to my chair, screaming at the top of her lungs.
My babies, my precious babies, where are they?
Now, I can understand her panic. I would have too. Ma'am, your kids are at the clubhouse. They're perfectly safe. I radioed another guard to come relieve me while entitled mom revs up to let me have it. Now, I am a tall gal and rather broad-shouldered due to swim team and have a harsh voice, so most often I seem intimidating and don't get much entitlement from the members. I also have the rep as the mean lifeguard.
How dare you take my kids to someone I don't even know?
I honestly couldn't believe she said this. Ma'am, you left your kids at the base of my chair, and you didn't know me.
It's your job to watch them.
No, ma'am. It is your job to watch your kids. I'm a lifeguard, not a babysitter. Kids must have a parent present while on the beach. Please follow me. I began to lead her to the clubhouse, ignoring her threats of having my job muttered behind me, as well as muttering of disrespectful teens. Sir, this is the mother of the twins. Ma'am, this is the resort manager. Please feel free to attempt to get me fired. I guess this last line took her off guard, as she didn't lead off with, I want her fired.
This girl took my kids and placed them in the care of a stranger. She had no right.
Manager. Jix, return to your station. I will take care of this. At the end of the day, I learned the consequences. This lady had left her precious babies to go to the liquor store in the town about 20 minutes away. She did want me fired, but the manager told her I did my job in protecting the kids and that his employees are not her babysitters. She was told she would be banned from our resort if she had another incident reported. I was not reprimanded and did not see this woman again that summer, but was told she only went to the beach when the mean lifeguard wasn't working. Dad, however, brought the boys often, and they were great kids. Next we've got, I have never been so scared in my life. Hello, Mr. Reddit and the Army. I wanted to thank you, Mr. Reddit, for reading my story. I nearly cried when I heard the title read out, and I was happy all day afterwards. So, thanks for making my day. This is an old story from when I used to work at a movie theater, and I felt I needed to share it with you guys. I will warn that this story is a bit of a two-parter, as I have another story at the start. You can skip it if you want to, if this post is too long. As normal, English is my first language. I just type too fast sometimes, and my brain likes to mess with me. Sorry for any bad formatting. So, some background. About a year or two ago, I used to work at a movie theater on the Las Vegas Strip. It was a very small theater that was very well hidden, and not many people knew about it. But being on the Strip, we for sure got our fair share of difficult people. I remember my first day there. A foreigner accused my coworker of stealing their phone when they had left it in the bathroom, and my coworker happened to find it and was intending to give it to a manager. And when the foreigner finished his movie, he tried to talk to me, to which I said, I can't help you, sir. I'm new. He told me I was being rude and went to my other coworker that was there. My coworker called the manager, and the manager came down. The man started ripping into my manager, claiming my coworker who had found the phone was a thief and that all the employees were thieves. Thankfully, my manager got the man to leave. But of course, he was shouting as he walked out. I should have figured then that was something I should have come to expect from people on the Strip, but I was only 18 at the time. I'm 19 when this story starts. Anyway, here's the story where I was scared half to death by a customer. Now, I had been at the theater for about a yearish now, I think. I don't remember much. It is a blur, to be honest. Anyway, I know my job pretty well at this point. Now, at my theater, you were assigned a job for the day, and the jobs were combined. So if you were box, you were also concessions, and if you were door, ticket checker, you were also the theater checker, person that went into the theater and counted the people, and the usher, cleaner. Well, normally if someone leaves an item in a theater and comes back for it, it is the door person's job to go with the person to find their lost item. But this day I am talking about is a bit different. Just so it's easy to read. We've got coworker, we've got difficult man, we've got manager, and we've got me. So the story starts like this. I'm doing my job as door for that day, checking theaters and cleaning them when it is time to do so. Well, sometimes when I go in to clean a theater, there are people still in their seats. So what I would normally do is walk up and down either side of them to check if trash was around them. The theater I worked at had sloping seating. Well, I walk into Theater 3 to clean it after all the people had left, or so I thought. I go in and see the difficult man still in his seat. Side note, this theater I worked at was never really that busy, so sometimes I'd go to clean theaters and there was nothing to clean, but it was still good to check anyways. I try not to bother difficult man as I see him on his phone. So I clean what trash I find, then I walk up and down the side pathways to look around difficult man's feet to see if there was any trash, and there wasn't. I was also about 5 to 8 feet away from difficult man. That will be important later. Well, I leave the theater thinking I am done with that. I was wrong. Difficult man left the theater just a bit after I did. Not even a moment later, difficult man comes back around the corner and tells me he forgot his headphones in the theater. Now my instinct is to help him find his headphones because as the door person, it was part of my job. But as I am walking to head to the theater, I see my coworker come from the concession stand and head into the theater. Side note, my coworker was the kind of guy that was nice sometimes, but would also point out something really mean. I called him the lovable jerk. Not the real word I used, but I want to keep this clean for Mr. Reddit. And he loved it. This incident was where his lovable side came out. I still follow my coworker into the theater, thinking 3 sets of eyes are better than 2, right? So we started looking for the headphones. I have my phone flashlight on looking for them because our theaters were very dimly lit, even though this theater was the brightest one. Difficult man tells me and coworker that his headphones he lost were Beats headphones, so I started looking for a black pair because those were the only kind of Beats I had seen and knew about. I didn't really think to ask what color they were, so I guess that is my bad. I didn't even know how it got to what happened next. The next thing I know, difficult man is asking who cleaned the theater. I told him I did, and I didn't find any headphones. Big mistake, because in the same breath, he started demanding I give him his headphones back and claimed I stole them. Now, remember how I said I was nowhere near this man when I cleaned the theater? Yeah, I told him that too. I vaguely remember telling him as he shined a flashlight in my face, "Sir, I don't have your headphones. I was never near you when I cleaned the theater." But he wasn't having it. He just kept going on and on about how I took them. Then my coworker, thank goodness, stepped in and told me to just leave with him. Difficult man tried to tell us to stop and not to leave the theater, but we ignored him. Bad idea. Difficult man comes out of the theater and stops my coworker and I. And I'm already pretty scared at this point. Difficult man was bigger than me and had way more muscle and was very angry, so my voice and body were starting to shake. Difficult man started yelling at me about how I stole his headphones and hid them in my little door stand and blah blah blah. My coworker was trying to get this man to stop, but nothing worked. But my manager heard the yelling and came over. This is what I remember was said. Manager: "Why are you yelling at my employee?" Difficult man:
She stole my headphones and won't give them back.
"I didn't, sir. I was too far from you when I cleaned the theater, and I didn't see anything. I was seriously at least 5 to 8 feet from this guy when I went to clean the theater he was in."
You're lying. You have them in the stand.
"Stop yelling at my employee. Do you see them on her? No. So she doesn't have them. And she says she doesn't have them, so leave her alone." At this, difficult man goes back into the theater and my manager tells me to come into the concession stand. I am visibly shaken at this point and I feel like crying because I thought difficult man was going to hit me. It was that scary. A few seconds pass by and difficult man comes back up to the front to yell at me some more. Luckily, my manager was there and told him to knock it off and to leave me alone. He goes away back into the theater, and it is at this point my manager calls security. Right as security arrives, difficult man finds his white headphones and leaves. My manager later told me that she could tell he was trouble from the start. I was so scared from him yelling at me, I even told my coworker that I thought he was going to hit me. My coworker, bless the lovable side, told me it would have never gotten that far, but I was still very shaken. I'm glad I've never had to deal with something like that again. I never want to either. And if I had not had my coworker and manager there, I think I would have been doomed. Thank gosh for people who aid others. Thanks for reading. And sub to Mr. Reddit, the Red Dragon, Queen of the Karen Call. Gather around, my soldiers of Re. Gather around, my warriors, the slayers of the Karen sores, for I shall tell the tale of a beast unlike any other. A creature unwavering, unstoppable, undefeated. Can you hear it? That far distant roar, that is not thunder. It is the Karens of the world, reeing for their queen. The queen of the Karen Call. The myth, the legend, the Red Dragon. Before we begin, a warning to all. The name, the Red Dragon, is her actual nickname, and this tale of screeching entitlement, you too will learn why. Our story begins on the first day of high school, where I stand, the awkward weirdo having no clue what to do. For you see, during this time I had a speech impairment and I was in the midst of speech therapy. Shout out to all those who had to go through that brutal but well-needed learning. Also, as that, I had not been diagnosed with Asperger's during that time. So here I am, in a brand new year and a brand new school, new students and new teachers. Like all first days, it is chaotic learning where each class was, to find new friends, remembering teachers' names. Then came her class, Chinese. You see, she did not just teach the language, it was also the history and the culture of the country. We find our seats and sit down. Then you hear it, the clicking of the heels, birds fleeing for their lives. Clouds depart, and there she stands, eyeing her prey, the Red Dragon. She starts out fine, welcoming us to her class, explaining what the class was. You know, the first day intro stuff. The class starts, she's talking away, so much pride in her voice, expecting all of us to hang on her every word. I sat there, head down, taking notes during some doodling, because that's what I do. Then she stops, silent. Animals flee, the skies turn black, the distant clash of thunder echoing through the sky, the loud stomping of her high heel claws sending tremors through the ground. My eyes look up, and there I saw it, mere inches away, the blood vessel pulsating on her forehead, the twitching of her upper lip, the red face of wrath. The Red Dragon had found its prey. She rears up and... the loudest of rees, the most violent of rees, the most deafening of rees, mere inches away from my own face, burning to the very soul and beyond. The smell of rotting carcasses and brimstone, even banshees quiver from even a whisper of this beast.
Get out of my class, now!
I quickly left the Red Dragon eyeing me, snarling at me, that blood vessel still pulsating on that cherry red face. As I stood outside, the Red Dragon followed me.
You will stand out here and think what you have done. Then you come back, and I expect you to apologize to me.
Apologize? I stood there trying to wrap my head around on what just happened, trying to calm myself down from the verbal onslaught that I just received, the smell of her dragon's breath still clinging on me. For 10 minutes I stood there, just calming myself down and having not the faintest idea what I did wrong. Was it that I wasn't giving her all visual attention? Was it that I didn't answer her questions? Was it because I was drawing on my workbooks? I don't know. I still don't know. I may never know. I returned back into the dragon's den and apologized.
Good. Now, go sit back down, and you better catch up, for I will not repeat myself.
I sat down, keeping my head up, not daring to feel the wrath once again. On the third time I had her, she saw me and snarls.
OP, leave my room. You're not doing it any longer.
What? Why?
You have been placed into a different class in the library, so go now.
I don't think I ever left a classroom faster than on that day. It turned out that this class was for the special needs kids, and I later learned that the reason why I was placed there and no longer taking Chinese was because of my speech therapy. This is the first and only time I would ever say this. Thank God I had a speech impairment. Now, you think this is my only encounter with this infamous creature? Oh, you are very mistaken. New character appears, Eve. Now, Eve, obvious fake name, was one of those students in our class that I felt really bad for. But my God, she did make it really hard to keep that sympathy going. She was 18 in a class of 13-year-olds, so that part I felt sorry for. The rest? How she was a teacher's pet, especially to the Red Dragon. Got her way and had to sit in a certain seat, and if she didn't, she'll make a huge fuss over it, which caused the wrath of the Red Dragon. That made it hard to give any kind of sympathy. Then came the incident. I won't say what it was, for I feel really sorry for Eve, but again, she brought it on herself. After it, any shred of sympathy was burned to nothing. It got bad, really bad. Until one day, we are all called into the room with Eve and the Red Dragon. This was not going to go well. The Red Dragon hissing at us, telling how we should all be ashamed for our actions, and
you should have been more sympathetic to Eve.
Again, I felt bad for her. I still do. So Eve, if you are listening to this, if you are reading this, I'm sorry. Truly, I am. Now, back to the story. The Red Dragon continued with her tongue lashing she gave to us. It was more of a typical Karen than anything else, really. Then she said those lines, those infamous lines.
And this is why Eve is leaving our great school.
Shock. And then, unknown person says,
Yeah!
We turn to see a fellow student in the middle of a cheer, arm raised, mouth in a smile, and the slow realization of how screwed he was. My God, how especially screwed he was. Silence. You could feel the heat, boiling, rising in the thickness of the air. I turned to the Red Dragon. The horror I saw. The blood vessel on her forehead was on the verge of bursting. Her upper lip shaking every wrinkle in her face. Her face. My God, her face. Redder than the ripest tomato. Redder than the color red. Even Medusa's glare was no match to that glare from the Red Dragon. The Red Dragon speaking through clenched fangs.
Students, may I speak with you? Outside.
Smoke spewing out of her mouth. Acid venom dripping on every one of her words. The student walked out. A dead man walking. Eve walked out. The Red Dragon walked out. The second they were out of sight, we laughed. And I do mean belly-hurting, teary-eyed on the floor laughter. We were loud. The Red Dragon was louder. The student didn't get off easy with us or with the Red Dragon, especially when it came to the Red Dragon. I was one of the lucky ones, having not to have more encounters of her after that. But I did hear her call, down the hallway, outside the building. Even one time during a different class, my teacher had to stop in the middle of his own teaching because of her call. The horror stories from other students on how they received such a call, from the simple to the ridiculous. Many years after I left, I came across a teacher from there and I asked about the Red Dragon. She was still there. So the next time you hear that thunder of the entitled remember and fear the one who gave them the power, the queen of the Karen call, the Red Dragon. Next we've got,
How dare you let your little cousin bother you? Go to sleep.
Hey there, Mr. Reddit. Thank you so much for reading one of my entitled aunt stories. It was so amusing hearing your voices doing her lines. Although, funnily enough, in real life, my aunt's shrill voice could probably rival the Ree's. Anyway, since that one went so well, have another. This is yet another story from my lovely entitled aunt. Long story short, she has no kids, is a retired elementary school teacher, and loves to blame me for everything. Enjoy. The cast. We've got me, acceptable dependent, OP. We've got my sister, my lovely sister. She was about 16 in this story. We've got Michelle, my 2-year-old cousin, godchild to entitled aunt. And we've got my entitled aunt. So let's set the scene. My sister and I are trying to get to sleep in the back room of my grandma's house. We have to get up early the next day because we were going somewhere. I don't remember where exactly. Could have been Disney. All I know is that my sister and I needed to go to bed before everyone else in the house, which has about 20 people in it at this point. Family reunion or something of the like. As my sister and I are laying in the pull-out trundle bed, we start talking about random stuff. The lights are off and we are just chatting until we fall asleep. Suddenly, the lights flash on. I roll over and I see my cousin, we'll call her Michelle in this story, standing right there at the light switch. Michelle giggles and flips it on and off until I make to get out of bed. As soon as I move, she dashes down the hallway. I roll my eyes and go back to bed. Not more than 10 seconds later, Michelle is back. She flashes the light. This time, I don't bother to get up and instead do the same as my sister. I just pull a pillow over my face and groan at her to go away. Michelle then proceeds to run over and jump on our beds. I think my sister tried to grab her, unsuccessfully. I just know that at this point, I was squishing my face further into the pillow and wishing her to disappear. When Michelle finally left, we hear entitled aunt screeching from the other room. She's coming down the hall like a freight train. Both my sister and I look at each other like, aw crap. I jokingly say, how much do you want to bet that this is somehow our fault? Sure enough, in stomps my entitled aunt, nostrils flaring.
Why are you two antagonizing Michelle?
Although we had joked about it, neither one of us could actually believe our aunt is blaming us for this. We just blankly stare at her.
Well, I'm waiting.
We weren't antagonizing her. We were sitting here in the dark, trying to sleep, and Michelle came over and started playing with the lights.
She wouldn't do that without reason. She's only 2.
I'm telling you the truth.
You must have told her to turn on the lights. Or she heard you playing in here, and you wouldn't let her join. I could hear you talking from the other room. Aren't you supposed to be getting to sleep? How dare you try to keep Michelle up past her bedtime? She has a big day tomorrow too. If you're trying to sleep, you should be silent. You are encouraging her to behave this way.
She goes on for quite a while, and I'm just in shock. I'm tired and just can't believe what BS is coming from my aunt's mouth. She's usually unreasonable, but this one was more of a stretch than usual. While this is all going on, my sister silently climbs to her feet. She walks over to the door, looks my aunt straight in the eye, and says, very flatly, "Good night, entitled aunt," and closes the door in her face and locks it. She then spins about and flops on her bed. My sister and I would have gotten walloped for being so rude to an aunt like that as kids. I burst out laughing, trying to cover my face in my pillow so that she can't hear me. I can still hear my aunt breathing hard out in the hallway, but she just ups and leaves. There were not enough high fives in the world for my little sister on that one. And our final story of the day, entitled Dean Doesn't Like Me. Hi, Mr. Reddit, and all who read this. This isn't really an entitled parent as much as it is an entitled jerk, so sorry if the flair is incorrect. This is part 1 of my stories about the middle school dean, person who punishes students, gives out detentions, etc. As usual, on mobile, and my grammar sucks. So I'm now a sophomore, 10th year, and my new school's dean reminded me a lot of my middle school dean. His name was a car company, so let's just call him Mr. Honda. Mr. Honda was a gigantic 6'5" ex-football player, got whatever he wanted on a silver platter, and he was friendly with everyone, except me. No idea why. I guess pre-trans, 5'8" emos are a threat to him. Mr. Honda always tried to get me in trouble, even though I never really got into trouble. I truly think he didn't like me because I didn't fuel his entitlement. So, I have 2 distinct stories about him. Let's start with the short story. This happened during the end of the year. If an 8th grader paid $62 and had all of their books and fines paid for, they could go to Universal Studios. I saved up the $62 and $75 to pay off my library fines, and with 2 weeks to spare, I got my ticket. Here's the thing though, if you got an ISS, in school suspension, or OSS, out of school suspension, before the trip, you are not allowed to go. And if you already paid for your ticket, they would not give the money back. And they started cracking the rules down hard. Out of class a second before the bell rang? ISS. Fighting? OSS. In the wrong class? ISS. Caught wandering the halls with no pass? ISS. Picture it, a week before the big trip. I'm just leaving my English class to go down to my algebra class that was located 2 classrooms away. Now every day I'd be the first one in class, and I'd ask my very kind teacher if I could use the restroom located directly next to her room. She always says yes because I'm a good kid and I just need to go after holding it all day. This day was like any other. I ask, I go. The bell rings as I'm washing up. No big deal, I thought. Oh, how I was wrong. I come out of the restroom, and like a horror movie, I hear the door leading into the hall open, and there is Mr. Honda, grinning. I swear to God, it was like being chased by Michael Myers. I bolt down the hall to my class, and I'm legit banging on the door and begging for the girl closest to the door to open it. She pretty much starts laughing at me. I look behind me, and Mr. Honda is taking his sweet time stalking down the hallway to me. Finally, my best friend opens the door, and I leap inside the classroom. Literally, I fell on my butt, but I didn't care. I was safe. Mr. Honda comes to my class, and he thinks he's entitled to take me down to his office anyway because I was skipping. Like an angel from above, my teacher comes over, and she's like, "No, sir, they were just going to the restroom. I let them go every day." And like a whisper in the night, the gleam in Mr. Honda's eyes are gone, and he sulks away. 1 week later, I get to go on my trip, get sick from all the butterbeer I drink, and scream my head off on the roller coasters. Thanks for listening, but this isn't the end of Mr. Honda. Be a nasty person to the person making your pizza? Get a nice surprise in it. Hello, Mr. Reddit and the Army. I have a petty, maybe pro, revenge story for you today. Note, I'm on mobile, formatting, yada yada. English is my first language. This story takes place in the late 80s and is not my story, it is my dad's. He was in college and worked at a place that we'll call Japa Pawns. There was this dude on campus that was the literal definition of a massive jerk. He would mess with the ladies, he would punch guys, and was overall a massive jerk. So one day, he goes into the Japa Pawns that my dad worked at. The dialogue is not exact, due to it being 30 years old. Mr. Reddit, or any other YouTuber who may read this, you have my permission, as long as you leave a link to the video in the comments. Our cast. We've got Ethan, my dad, not his real name. We've got Brad, the jerk. And we've got the cool coworker. We've got the manager. Dad. Hi, welcome to Japa Pawns. How may I help you today? Brad.
It's you.
Dad and Brad were nemesis.
Can you get me an extra large pepperoni pizza?
Sure, that will be $13.99.
$13.99? Are you serious? That's way too much. Give me a discount.
Note, my father is a short-tempered man and takes crap from no one. And why should I do that?
Because I'm the customer, and the customer is always right. If you do not lower the price right this instant, I will get you fired.
Dad rolls his eyes. Fine, whatever. $9.99. Brad scoffs.
Much better, and you better make it spiffy.
Dad walks back to the kitchen and informs cool coworker of the situation. Cool coworker. Great, it's Brad again, isn't it?
Yup, it's him.
Cool coworker suddenly looks pleased. Oh yeah, I've been waiting for this. Just go back and tell him that it will be a while.
Okay.
Goes back to the kitchen.
Hey, Brad.
Brad looks up from his magazine.
What is it?
Your order's gonna take a little longer than usual, okay?
What? What do you mean? I want to speak to the manager.
Manager from the back.
What's going on?
I told... Brad interrupts him.
Yes, finally. This...
Insert many really bad words that an Irishman wouldn't even say.
Said I was a jerk and said he would make sure that my order would be really long.
Manager. I've been sitting in my office. I heard the whole thing. Just sit down. Brad grumbles and sits back down. After about 30 minutes, Brad's pizza is ready. Dad, holding Brad's pizza.
Hey, Brad,
pizza's ready.
About time.
Brad sits down, takes a slice, chews for a second, and then immediately throws up all over the Japa Pawns. Turns out, cool coworker had put dead roaches in Brad's pizza. Burnt dead roaches. Safe to say, Brad never came back to that Japa Pawns. Cool coworker and Dad did get a write-up, but the manager said that, personally, he thought it was hilarious. But corporate policy overrules the lowly management. Next we've got, entitled mother tries to ruin my husband and my reputation, gets hers ruined instead. Hey Mr. Reddit and Army. Until my friend brought this woman up today, I had forgotten her. Thought you all would like to hear the story. For the backstory, this woman and myself were friends in high school. She wiggled herself into a relationship with another friend. It was messy, but ultimately none of my business. I became homeless after high school and went to Job Corps, so lost touch with them for a time. Flash forward to after Job Corps, and I have a job and apartment. They contact me because they were homeless, plan to go to Job Corps, and only need a place for 2 weeks apparently. They were there a month, and in that time, she found out she was pregnant. They moved my remaining boxes into a large walk-in which made them hard to access, dyed their hair purple, and left the mess until I got home and asked them to clean it. It stained the walls, sink, floors, and cupboards, invited someone over while I was sleeping because I worked night shift, and when I asked why I wasn't informed, they said it was because I'd say no. Tried to get more expensive food when I offered to pay because she was pregnant, and finally tried to convince me to postpone my birthday party I warned her 2 weeks in advance about because she couldn't find a place to stay the night and she was pregnant. Finally, they left for Job Corps themselves. Sorry for the long backstory. Here is the cast. We've got entitled mom, we've got sweet kid, we've got me, and we've got amazing hubby. Now for the story. So years after the apartment thing, I noticed entitled mom and sweet kid are bouncing around homes, and she always had a sob story. Her and baby daddy are no longer together, and she blames almost everything on him. I'm used to her drama. She makes a post about how she is going to be homeless with her kid. Now her kid is super sweet and was 4 at this time. Even though I am apprehensive about her, I shuddered to think about that boy homeless. So I talk with awesome hubby and our roommate, and we agree on 2 days. She is thanking me and promised she can figure something out in that time. Unfortunately, I see her chatting with friends and myself about how hard motherhood is and how horrible her baby daddy is. Meanwhile, she interacts with her kid as little as possible. It then starts to hit that I have never seen her interact with her son in a real way, mostly just moaning at him to stop whatever bad behavior he is doing while looking at her phone or setting up TV for him. On the second day, she convinced us to let her stay another night. Then I see a post afterwards that said something like,
"I'm being forced out of my place."
It was new. I was confused, but figured she would be gone the next day. The next day, she convinced my roommate and awesome husband to stay one more night. Meanwhile, we have been caring for Sweet Kid, who really just wanted human interaction. He starts following awesome hubby around because he is amazing with kids. That last night, to set some boundaries, we talk with her. Awesome hubby. Entitled mom, we need you to leave by 2 p.m. tomorrow.
Yeah, I should have something by then.
Next day, 1:45 p.m. She is sitting there watching TV with her son. Their stuff is still everywhere, and she does not look like she is planning on leaving. My husband doesn't take any bull, so he says, "Entitled mom, if you don't leave, I will have to call the cops."
We still have 15 minutes.
You're not even packed, and it didn't look like you were about to.
I don't have anywhere to go.
Me. Entitled mom, I told you this was temporary, and you said it would be fine. You have to leave.
I can't carry all my stuff looking for a place to stay.
You can leave your stuff packed in our room until you find a place. You just can't stay the night.
Fine.
She packs and gets someone to pick her up, mean mugging us as she went. 2 days later, I ran into a friend I had met while homeless. They tell me that she was telling stories about how we kicked her out at 2 a.m., threatened to keep her belongings, and threatened to call the cops on her. They didn't believe her, so they asked me. I told them the story above, and it made them mad. This interaction happens with at least 5 other people. I also found out she is living on the streets now, so I call CPS. People start calling her on her lies. I didn't just call because of her housing, but it's when I saw Sweet Kid begging another lady to be his mom at 4 years old. She stays with other mooches now, and her son lives with her sister. She just posted about how you put your kid first, which is what reminded me about her. My friend shared it, and Sweet Kid's living situation with me. No one decent can stand her, and I'm just happy her kid is in a stable home. Sorry for the long post. Hope you enjoyed. Next we've got, I'm worried my parents are entitled. Hi, Mr. Reddit. I've been watching your vids for a little bit now and enjoy them. I don't know if this can be considered an entitled parent story, but I don't really know what else to describe my parents as. So for some backstory, I'm 17 and from England. I live with my two older brothers. One is 21 and the other is 18, along with my parents who are both in their late 40s. I was diagnosed with high-functioning autism when I was 13, and my dad has had a brain tumor since I was 10 years old, meaning money was tight and life was and still is hard. Now, with that out of the way, I can begin. This isn't much of just one story that my parents have done. It's more like me recollecting the biggest details. The first was when I was planning my college years and my final year of secondary school. I wanted to do game design. My dad didn't, and one conversation went like this. "Dad, I want to do something I enjoy instead of something I won't."
I didn't ask for what you wanted to do. I prefer you do computer science at the same school your brothers went to.
"Well, too bad. I don't want to do that. Sorry, I'm gonna apply for college in my area."
No, you know what? Go to your mother now.
I go to my entitled mom.
Why is entitled dad shouting at you?
She says this while laying down in her bed. "Because I want to do something I enjoy."
Just listen to your father. Your autism may give you a one-track mind, but try and be optimistic.
Note, they used my autism as an excuse more than I do. It annoys me to no end. Me, furiously.
No.
I go to my room. Eventually, I got to do game design, but I dropped out at the end of the year because they wanted to drop me a level for some reason. This next one happened when I was trying to go to the desktop to do some work. I go to the desktop and open up my work. Entitled Dad.
Sit down.
Me, getting on with an assignment. No.
Yes.
I turn to face entitled Dad. "I'm gonna be doing my high concept document."
You've had all week to do that. It's family time now.
Me, aggressively because I was tired.
No. Go to your mom now.
Same song and dance as all other times. The final ones I'll talk about is what happened today. It was after dinner. I was setting up the desktop as my 3 dogs began barking, when Millie, a lightweight Yorkshire Terrier, jumps onto my dad. He shoves her off and hears a thud. Me, concerned for my dog. "Dad!" Entitled Dad turns to me, aggravated that I raised my voice to him.
What?
"Why did you do that?"
What? You'd do the same.
"No, I wouldn't."
Excuse me?
I'm silent because I couldn't be asked. Dad tells Mom.
Entitled Mom, tell him to buzz off.
Entitled Mom.
It was just a reaction. Leave him be.
I'm silent, trying to not just throw something at my parents. An hour later in the kitchen, I tell Entitled Mom. "What's Entitled Dad's problem? This isn't the first." She cuts me off.
Drop it. He's sick. You know how his brain tumor affects his brain.
What? Entitled Mom walks back in the living room, and I just stand there confused. This is the one that angers me the most, because it just shows how much my parents don't actually listen to me. If my Entitled Mom would have let me finish, I would have said that this isn't the first time that Entitled Dad has prevented me from doing something, and how I believe that he still doesn't trust me to do anything by myself. But to her, it would have been a waste of time to hear, because their alcohol was more important. Like I said, I don't really know if my parents are entitled, but I think they are if my mother can use my autism as an excuse. My father can use his brain tumor, which he can control himself with, mind you, and I can't even get angry and be allowed to be left alone to calm down. Which is my way of dealing with my stress, because in my dad's words, it's not his way of dealing with stress. Even though his is to harass my brothers to get cigarettes and more drinks, wake me up at 6 a.m., even on half terms and the summer holidays, and force everyone in his house to sit down and watch a stupid crime drama. I don't plan to leave until I'm around 22, so I'm stuck with them. And when I turn 18, I'm not getting them things like my brothers do. Mom is always in bed, and she can go and do it herself. And our final story of the day, entitled Mom Gets Malicious Compliance. Hi again, Reddit. I'm so glad you liked my last post, and hope you like this one too. I had to go to the airport today, and was reminded of the last time I ran into a wild Karen while working there. I hope you don't mind older stories. Sorry for grammar mistakes. Our cast. We've got me. We've got Karen. We've got Karen's nice mom and the airline manager. So this happened about 2 years ago, and I was working for International Airlines as a ticket salesperson. As I was finishing up a sale, Karen came to me, her mother beside her in a wheelchair.
Excuse me?
Ma'am, you don't have to shout. Now, how can I help you?
Well, you seemed distracted. Anyway, I need a special seat for my mother.
Nice mom. I broke my hip 2 days ago and can't leave this wheelchair. Oh, of course. Well, what's your flight information? They gave me everything, and it turned out that the seats they had should be handicapped accessible. Oh, it seems the seats you have should be fine actually.
No, I need my mother to have more room. Give us better seats.
I will be fine with just a helper.
No, I want you in a nice seat.
Oh, an upgrade then. Sure, there's a couple of tickets left. Karen grins like she's won the lottery.
Perfect. Just give us the nicest seats.
Okay, that will be an additional $1,800. Would you like to pay in cash or card?
$1,800?
Yes, you did say the nicest seats.
No, I wanted a free upgrade.
Miss?
Free!
Yes, she basically read. I sigh and give my best smile. Let me go ask my manager.
Oh, please, you don't have to.
Good. Go tell him it's vital.
Sweetie, please, it's fine.
No, you deserve the best.
I shake my head, wondering how such a nice lady could be mom to such a Karen. I go tell my manager what's happening. He looks to them curiously. Awesome manager. So, she wants her mom in a nicer seat due to her injury. Yes, sir. Then give her mother the upgrade. She would only have to pay $800 due to senior discounts. Yes, but her daughter wants the seats free. My manager stares for a second and sighs annoyed. She wants 2 first-class international tickets for free? Okay, I will go get the tickets. Go tell Karen I have everything handled. I was blown away. I nodded and go back telling them my manager was getting things set up for them.
Good. My dear mother shouldn't be shoved into coach in her condition.
Oh, hush. I have traveled in worse conditions.
Nonsense. We should be in the nicest place for such a long flight.
I stood quietly as they talked. Soon my manager comes back and hands the nice woman her ticket personally. He says he will take her to the plane himself and be paying for the ticket himself. He then hands Karen the ticket to her original booked seat.
Wait, what is this?
You said to upgrade her due to her injury, so I upgraded her.
You can't separate us. It's a 15-hour trip.
You said yourself she shouldn't be in your original seats, so she isn't going to be.
No, I should go with her.
You are. You will be 2 rows behind her in coach.
No, no, no!
Karen, please hush. He did exactly what you asked him to.
But I want to be in first class too.
Then pay to be there, like everyone else. I stood there, trying not to laugh as Karen yelled about how unfair this was, about how he should pay for her too. He just kept rolling her mom, ignoring her. No idea if she kept throwing her fit at the terminal or on the plane, but I am so glad my manager handled it like a champ. I miss that man, but will never miss the Karens I met at the airport. Thanks for reading. Entitled Mom Demands She Use My Phone on My Anniversary. Hi, Mr. Reddit. Huge fan of your videos. and you inspired me to share my own story of an entitled mother. If you want to use it on YouTube, you have my full permission. English is my first language, but I am dumber than a bag of rocks, and I am on mobile, blah blah blah. Anyway, on to the story. It didn't have much dialogue, and it has been years, so I could be paraphrasing. Now for some backstory. I met a now married couple while living with a friend I knew since school. The husband was always cool, the wife too, until we got kicked out because his mom wanted to sell the house. The cast. We've got me. I don't know who he is, but he sounds like a disappointment. We've got the cool husband. We've got the entitled wife. We've got girlfriend, my girlfriend at the time. Now for the main event. So, while we were kicked out, the couple and I agreed to move into a new place together because we were all cool with each other. Cool husband lived with me and my folks so we could house hunt, while entitled wife moved to a friend's house out of town so their kiddo would have a roof over their heads. He's part of the story, but only in mention. He wasn't speaking yet. Before that point, she started to demand use of my phone, which I usually allowed so they could keep in touch and their baby would be able to hear his dad's voice every now and again. It started becoming more frequent, and I started to refuse. This was my biggest mistake, as I will soon learn. My anniversary came up, and I made it a point to use my phone the entire day so I could talk to my girlfriend. I told cool husband about it, and he said it was fine because it was my phone anyway, so I didn't even need to tell him that. Entitled wife, however, didn't like the news of that one bit. Something I should tell you about entitled wife. She has huge control freak tendencies, and she really doesn't like being told no, or being told to do something herself. Back to the story. Here's the conversation she and I had, which is paraphrased because this was about 6 years ago.
Hey, you! Let me talk to cool husband. He got a letter for me, and I need him to tell me what it is.
Nah, sorry. I'm celebrating my anniversary today, so I'm using my phone.
But it's important. Give him the phone now.
As I said, no, this is my phone. I'm using it today.
But what if it's for my son? It could be about our benefits, so I can feed my child. So give him your dang phone.
While she's demanding my phone use, cool husband was playing on Xbox, and she was spamming his inbox using another Xbox Live account. She even messaged my Xbox account. It can wait until tomorrow. I'm using my phone today, so my answer is no.
Thanks a lot. You're single-handedly destroying our relationship because of your selfishness. Without that letter, I can't feed my child, so we need your phone.
If I was ruining your family, I wouldn't have had cool husband live with me, or for you to use my phone. Again, this is my anniversary, and this is the first time I have said no.
I don't care what you have plans for. You were only with your girlfriend for less than a year. My relationship has more tenure, so it's more important than yours. So give my husband your phone.
I was about to respond, but I heard cool husband before I finished typing a message. Cool husband. Stop messaging her. Even if you hand me your phone, I'll just give it back. Go on, talk to your girlfriend and tell her happy anniversary. I thanked him and got back to texting my girlfriend. You'd think that was the end of the story, right? Well, almost. While texting girlfriend and getting ready to call her because we couldn't see each other, I couldn't go through one message without getting phone calls. You can guess who. I'm not gonna spoil who. You all played that guessing game. I finally answered after managing to send a 3-word text message that took me 10 minutes to type from having to constantly push the reject button. Look, I'm busy, so...
Put my husband on the phone because he needs to read me a letter.
First of all, don't yell. Second of all, cool husband,
Give me the dang phone.
After I hand it to him, he leaves the room and goes out to his truck. A few minutes later, he comes back with the getter.
All it's about are benefits being changed.
Now leave the guy alone. He wants to talk to his girlfriend. After all, it is his anniversary. He hung up before he handed me back the phone.
Sorry about that.
Happy anniversary. Thanks. I do hang out with her because her husband and I are on relatively decent terms, so I have to associate with her. She's pretty crappy though. Also, this was 100% real. The conversation may have been embellished a bit, but that happens after years. Some details are forgotten. Next we've got entitled brother gets me evicted, or wannabe gangstar continues to be a dumb donkey and gets put down. Hello once again, Army. It's been 2 months since my last post, and it's a sort of continuation from that tale. As in, it's another story involving Chris, my entitled brother. I'll post a link to it at the end of the story, but it's not really important. What you need to know is Chris is my entitled sibling who sells sandwiches. If you've watched How I Met Your Mother, you'll understand. And if you don't, enjoy laughing and putting the pieces together. We've also got Miss L, my mother, a saint. And we've got me, side character in my own story. We've also got Tim and Brian, my little brothers, background characters. Now, Chris up there has done a lot of things since my last tale, but none of them were good enough for a proper entitled story. He's had his son over for the summer to dump him on other people cause he needed a break. Cause as you know, being a parent is a punch clock job, like construction work or any office job. Don't worry, he's back in Chicago with his mom. He's not harmed in this story. Constantly invited random people over at all hours of the night, none of which we knew. And even when he wasn't around, people kept coming and asking for him, and nobody wanted him about. Got cops to investigate the premises for bad things he was doing. And he ate every scrap of food in the house, not even leaving a crumb for the mice that we, thankfully, didn't have in our hotel. Now, none of these are big enough for a proper story of their own, even combined. They all came and went the same way. Chris acts like a jack-a-mule, gets mom angry, she turns the other cheek and warns him to stop, and he stops and promises to learn his lesson. Then the next episode airs, and it happens all over again. With the set stage, the actual story. It was a late night when I got up and headed to the bathroom. I noticed Chris wasn't in his usual spot, but I didn't remember seeing him walk about, and by now, it was 4 a.m, so I figured he was in the bathroom. But I needed to go, so I dragged myself to the bathroom and went to knock. The door flew open, and my eyes nearly bugged open when I saw Chris walk out. He was mumbling under his breath and made way for me to go in. There were sandwiches everywhere. The sink was stuffed with them, the floor painted with pieces, and he reeked of the stuff. Chris.
Can you hurry it up, Black? I'm busy. This is my secret laboratory.
More like laboratory. No response. He would at least sneer or laugh, but he was so stuffed that he didn't seem all there. I rolled my eyes, used the bathroom, and washed my hands in the shower. Once he went in and shut the door, I looked closer at the floor and saw a trail of sandwich material. Wherever he went, a mess had followed him. I was tired and didn't feel like picking a fight, so I just made my way to the bed and tried to get some sleep. But I was roused by the sound of my mom waking and trying to use the bathroom. I didn't hear much as I was drifting in and out of sleep, but she was let in, came out, and made her way back to her bed to get more sleep before she had to hurry for work. But before she drifted back to sleep, Mom, this is the last straw, Chris. I'm not dealing with this anymore.
Mom, come on.
No, I mean it. I want you and your sandwiches out by the time I get back from work. Chris then from my perspective, was incoherent slurring, but my mom later told me, he said,
Man, I don't care. I don't care about anything. I'm out on the grind, making my money.
Yes, that's why you're always broke. Mom.
Yeah? Well, you can make it somewhere else, because you can't stay here anymore.
Chris. Chris then collected his stuff and shuffled out the door, even slamming it. But I didn't care, and neither did my mother. We just went on about our day. And what a day it was, without hearing Chris screech on his phone or without catching him going through someone's stuff. My mom soon came home, happy to see Chris gone, and even gave me the words I always wanted to hear.
If he comes back, do not let him in.
I was so happy I could cry. Then there was a knock on the door. Oh, dang it all. I knew something was wrong. My little brothers knew it too. And when the door opened, a man had handed us a note, had a chat outside, and then she came back inside. Mom.
Apparently, your brother was arrested. He was hanging around with his backpack open, and they caught him with tons of sandwiches, as well as other things he shouldn't have had.
Now, my brother already had a warrant for his arrest, so that's a potential 5 years. I was smiling like a madman.
And apparently, he told them that he stayed in our room.
My smile went a full 360, and it was clear to all of us that we were getting evicted. Immediately. We either had to be gone by tonight, or they had called the cops to escort us out. We had to pick up our belongings, a lot of them, and had to get moving. We were all thinking and saying the same thing. Chris was a good for nothing. It didn't help that we kept finding sandwiches around the place and had to dispose of them, so we didn't leave any of his trays. Mom.
This is exactly why I didn't want him around. Because I knew he would do this. See this? If the cops came and kicked the door in, we'd all be lunch meat.
I'm typing all of this from my aunt's house. My mom is planning to not stay for long. I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't still taking this as a blessing. Yeah, we all nearly got arrested. And yes, we're back to square one because of Chris. But he's gone now, for at least 10 years. And it seems my mother finally understands that he's a leech and has no intentions of changing. And our final story of the day. I have never been so degraded in my life. Hello, Mr. Reddit and the Army. I love your videos. Your voices are fantastic. If you use this in a video, you have full permission. English is my first language, and I just suck at typing. And sorry about any incorrect formatting. I will try to keep this as clean as I can. Sorry if this is super long. So a bit of background. I have been drawing since I was in 8th grade, and of course, I have improved much since then, as I am now 21, and I take some great pride in my work. Well, I first started with humans, and then once I got into My Little Pony in 9th grade, I started drawing it in 10th grade. Well, a few years down the line, I find this social app called Amino. It's an amazing app, by the way. I am always on it. Well, I joined one of the biggest communities on the app, which was an MLP community. I loved this community and still do. Recently reached 3,000 plus followers on it. Yay! Well, at one point, I tried to join a group in the community. I applied to be a teacher in the group to teach those that wanted to learn to draw or improve their art. I will admit, when I got the spot, I lost it due to my stupidity. I started being difficult and claiming that I was met with hostility, and I did say I was going to leave, but only twice. I still think I kinda was, but that doesn't matter. Anyways, I ended up leaving the group because I didn't really want to stay in a group where I was going to be mocked and shunned. Well, just after I left, I lurked a bit without joining back to see someone had messaged in the group about me being an attention seeker. I was mad because they made me out to be a bad guy when I wasn't trying to be. Well, they ended up PMing me a bit later, and from the start, This guy acted like an entitled jerk. The following conversation took place. Just a heads up though, some of the messages might seem like they're out of order, but they are in order of replies, so there might be messages replying to a message from before. The lovely cast. We've got HG, me, and we've got Entitled Jerk. Entitled Jerk messaged me first.
Can I tell you something about what art really is?
Sure. And by the way, you were wrong about me. I wasn't seeking attention, and I wasn't trying to brag. I was just annoyed that I was met with animosity. I'll let you tell me if I can tell you what art is to me. He was quiet for a few, so I asked, you there?
Yes, but telling you'll leave several times is kind of attention-seeking.
I said it twice. Only twice.
That's still much. You need to get yourself together and actually listen to their criticism.
What the heck, jerk? I wasn't going to keep myself in a group where I am not welcome. I don't need that kind of stress.
You're far inexperienced at art.
Gee, thanks for the vote of confidence.
You need to listen and actually look for flaws in your art. You'll improve faster. I've only been drawing for 7 months, and I learned all that simply by taking criticism.
How many times do I have to tell people that I have a lot to learn? I am taking an art class. I am in it right now, in fact. I already doubt my skills as is. I don't want more of a reason to. I am self-taught. There are a lot of basics I didn't learn. I have been drawing for 5 to 6 years. I started in 8th grade. This happened back when I was taking a college drawing class.
Many of us are self-taught, but we tried to find flaws and look for every place where improvement was needed. You have misunderstood how art is supposed to be, how you're supposed to get better.
You want to see how bad I was? I started with drawing humans.
I don't want to.
It was bad, I can tell you.
Okay.
Hair came from the middle of their foreheads, but now I draw way better than I did 5 to 6 years ago. Like even the ponies I draw now. I couldn't draw what I draw now about 3 years ago. I had only been drawing ponies for 3 years at this point.
I draw way better than from 7 months ago. There's a huge improvement. You've drawn ponies for 3 years, but you still haven't learned their anatomy properly?
And how have I not? I use bases all the time. I am a huge advocate for the use of bases as a teaching tool. I use them as a reference all the time, and they are a huge help. Entitled Jerk sends a screenshot of one of my drawings.
Base? I've never seen a base with those legs or bots.
I interpret bases. Art is up to how you see it.
The tail is wrong too.
I see it differently than you do. So you are going to say that what I draw is wrong? That is not very nice or good criticism. It's very degrading. Entitled Jerk proceeds to draw over my art without my permission and sends me a picture.
See any difference? I'm trying to knock some sense into you.
Very rudely.
You won't take it either way. It's like talking to a wall. So why bother being polite?
You are denigrating my style and how I draw. That is not very nice.
Oh my lord. You're using the "it's my art style" excuse?
Well, you're really going to get a wall when you speak rudely to me. I did nothing to you. You are being a jerk. Really. There is no right way to draw. You have no right to dictate how I draw and make my art.
Look at the red lines in my drawing. It shows how the drawings should have been. I never did. You're being rude by calling me a jerk. I'm telling you what art is. You're ignoring me when I am trying to knock some sense into you.
You were rude first.
I never called you a jerk.
So what? You insulted me by degrading my art.
The only way to get better grades is to listen to the teacher, you know?
I know I have a lot to learn. And you are like, this is how it is done. You are wrong. That is not very nice. Not if the teacher is rude and demoralizing.
You have a lot to learn and still think you qualify to be in the position teacher. It's for experienced people, constantly trying to get feedback and improving their art.
Well, I am nicer than you and more encouraging. I don't outright say, your art is bad, you don't know what you're doing, blah blah blah. That is not right.
Well, it's really nice to call someone a jerk, smiley face. I'm encouraging you to get yourself together and destroy that wall.
What wall? You entitled jerk? I am put together just fine, and you are not encouraging anything but spite. I am normally a very nice person, but like you are making it hard for me to be.
How so? You didn't get yourself together. You never listened to any constructive criticism. You thought you were perfect, and everyone else got issues.
Great grammar there, jerkwad.
Oh, pulling the mask off and showing the edgy teen now?
I am in no way edgy. Let me tell you something. I never thought that, ever. I am 20 years old for your information. I was still 20 when this convo occurred.
An immature 20 years old.
You want to know something? I know that there are people better than me. There are people out there with skill I will never be able to come close to. But I have never thought in my life that I am better than anyone. Don't assume you know me, because you know nothing about me. I still don't think I am better than anyone, mostly because I don't think it is right to think that way. Everyone is equal to me.
I know you have a very thick head, just like a flat earth believer. You don't want to acknowledge your mistakes.
I acknowledge my mistakes just fine. If I never did, I would have never learned from them and wouldn't have the skill I have today. And don't compare me to those nut jobs. I am not thick-headed either.
Nut jobs?
I ended the convo after that, telling him to bug someone else with his messed up ideas of art. I then proceeded to block and report him because I wasn't going to deal with it anymore. I have never been so upset about someone degrading me in my life, and to this day, I'm still angry about it. Every time I read the blog I posted about it on my page on Amino, my anger returns. Even just typing this out, I was livid. Seriously, this guy just had a problem with me, and I didn't know why. But thankfully, I never heard from him again after I blocked him. You Can't Stop Stupid 4, The Breaking Point. Do you feel that? That rumble from the distance? The cries of the Karen masses reeing in fear that can be heard for miles. What could it be? It's your favorite Army General Security Guard, D. Fatman, here again, with another set of stories of my dealings with the entitled Army. Previous warnings apply, and previous stories at the bottom. With that out of the way, let's get this show on the road. Let me start this post with a few bits of context, mostly because it needs to be said. While most times I can take a fat joke, as it mainly doesn't bother me. I mean, I'm over 400 pounds. It kind of comes with the territory. That changes as soon as I'm either already in a bad mood or dealing with a massive headache. Then there barely is a saintly bone in my body, and I will turn into Satan at a hair trigger. Not like in the sense of something beyond someone's control, more like I can't and won't stand stupid in any sense, and the raging butt of a jerk comes out. Besides that, I should warn that this post also involves I don't work here and tales of retail, with a possible side of am I the jerk here, depending on how you see it. Let me start with what happened that reminded me of my time as a retail worker. Yes, I am a fat man of many hats, and I have worn quite a few. As I was saying, this all started because I had to make a stop for some lemon juice for my tea. This was right after work, and I had taken off my normal work shirt and only had my black work pants, as well as a black shirt that has a big in bold letters, security. Now I know what some of you must be thinking. Fat man, why did you go into a store with a security shirt on? It's like you're asking for trouble. Which in most cases, you're right. All but 3 things. 1. The store in question, which we will call for the sake of the story, the Simple Stop. Mostly it was one of those cheap stores that sell the knockoff brand stuff that is super cheap and depending on what it is, may not be any good.
Secondly, the store employees' shirts are bright red. And the third point is, until this day, I had never set foot in this store. I just so happened to have been at a location nearby that day. This was maybe a few minutes into coming into the store. After I asked one of the workers where said lemon juice was, I was off to get it. What I didn't know was that a woman saw me talk to the worker and began following me from further down the aisle. I only assumed that part because otherwise she would have clearly heard me ask the worker for the location of something. For the sake of this story, I will use the namesake of these posts and call her Karen with a capital K, because you have no idea how much I wanted to kick her in the rear. I get to the aisle and was scanning up and down it for my prize, and so far no luck, before I hear the telltale signs of a Rheosaurus Rex as I heard that entitled tone as she spoke.
Excuse me? Do you know where the napkins are?
I have no idea.
What about the tissues?
No clue.
What about the paper plates?
No. And why don't you just... She ended up cutting me off, which was not helping my mood, mostly because I was dealing with one massively raging headache.
What about plastic forks?
No. Go ask once again, interrupting me.
Then how about the plastic?
This time I cut her off, but speaking loudly. I don't know. Go ask an employee. As soon as I finally got that out of my mouth, she gave me the face like she smelt the most foulest thing in the world. Maybe her own entitlement. Who knows?
How dare you speak to a customer like that?
She began to shriek at me, something that really wasn't helping my aching headache. So this time, I decided to fight fire with fire, and I picked up her little accent.
And how dare you speak to another customer like that?
I know it was a bit childish on my end, but I had just gotten off a 16-hour shift at this point with a headache and not in a mood with dealing with Miss Small, Loud, and Entitled.
Do not mock me. I will have your fat butt fired.
She began to poke me in the belly over and over again, which, when I'm in a foul mood, can be a real red button with me. Because, and no offense to anyone, I'm not the Pillsbury Doughboy, and poking me in the belly will not get me to go, woohoo! What it will do is set me off. Do not touch me. I growled this as I was starting to see red, and I was dealing with an internal struggle not to wring her neck. Metaphorically, of course, because Mama didn't raise a fool. Maybe an idiot, but not a fool.
Why do I care? You're just some shelf-stocking minimum wage boy who should know better than insult customers like that. I'm going to get your manager,
she said, still jabbing me with her finger, till I cut her off because I was having none of this. Are you stupid?
Excuse me?
She sounded confused and insulted. I asked, are you stupid?
No, I'm not stupid, you fat idiot.
That's when I evolved from security guard fat man to nuclear fat man, because that's when I went off on her. A small warning here. What I really said was much worse than what I'm about to type. If you need an idea of how bad, just picture the scene from 1995 movie Friday with Ice Cube and Chris Tucker going, damn, right afterwards. Well, you must be. Because not only have you asked me over and over again where something is, and I keep telling you that I have no clue, but not to realize that the employees in this store wear a bright red shirt, while I'm clearly in a black shirt with bright, bold white letters that say security. Something you can clearly see as you came up from behind me, and it says on both sides. So you have no excuse not to know that I don't work here.
But
But not just that. You decided to insult someone who you don't know about his weight while you're at it. So let me spell this out for you, jerk. I don't care if you can get me fired from a job I clearly don't work. I don't care that you want to know where something is that clearly isn't in this aisle. What I do care about is that you decided to assault me by jabbing your finger into my stomach like I was the Pillsbury Doughboy. I will not go, woohoo, for you or anyone, because frankly, lady, your entitlement is more than likely way overdue for being shot down like a B-17 bomber. So walk away, find your stuff, pay for it, go home, and get the heck over yourself, you entitled jerk. As soon as my tirade was over, Karen just stood there with her mouth open, in shock as I spotted the lemon juice that I wanted. With that, I grabbed 2 bottles and walked past her. I go up to the register as all of the employees just stood there watching me. I probably looked like the Hulk to them, as I was still seeing red, and I wouldn't have been surprised if I had popped a blood vessel in my anger. There were a few customers before me, so I sat there, still fuming. If this was a cartoon, I would swear you could see the steam rising out of my ears. As soon as I got up to have my stuff rang up, I watched Karen make her way towards one of the other registers and talk to an employee. That's when I turned to my cashier. Nice-looking woman, and I felt sorry for her having to do a 9-to-5 in a little shop like that. Let's call her Kat for the sake of the story. She looked a little scared as we spoke. "Ma'am," I said, still having my manners. "Kat." "Yes?" "You may want to tell your manager that he's going to be needed, but to check the footage from the aisle with the lemon juice in it." Kat nodded and ran off, probably thankful she was away from the angry elephant of a customer. Not to anyone's surprise, Karen tried to get me fired after saying that I assaulted her and shoved past her, which I didn't do any of that unless you count my tirade as a verbal assault. To make this beginning bit short, the manager taking the suggestion watched the footage first as he had both asked Karen and I to leave. Karen first, as she was now banned from the store permanently for what she had done to me. I only got a few days ban after I got to pay for my lemon juice. I did apologize for my mouth, and the manager said he understood having one of those days, but he had to follow store policy. To be honest, I haven't been back to the store since, and this was less than a week ago from when I'm typing this. But that brought up another time when I had gone nuclear on a customer. This, however, was when I was in Texas working retail, which this reminded me of when I had gotten home and gotten sleep. So, a little context here. I was working for an entertainment store that was going out of business. Now, I was the tech guy of the store, mostly because I knew what I was talking about for either phone accessories or gaming stuff. So, I was back and forth mostly between those 2 sections. Now, this job was pretty cool because my coworkers were pretty cool as well, save for one of them. But this post isn't about her. This is about a customer who was the bane of our existence there, mostly because she kept trying to get more discounts on the product than what was going on. Because the store I was working for was going out of business, which I will have to say is a shame. But what can you do, you know? Well, regardless, this jerk of a woman would drag her daughter with her. For the sake of this story, let's call this woman Miss Toity, like in hoity-toity. Something my coworkers and I would call her, not to her face, mind you. Her daughter we will call Sally. Now, Sally is a good kid. Maybe not someone who isn't good with tech stuff outside of the bare bones basics, and I had seen her in this store before with her father. She was a bit of a bookworm, and when I had no one in my 2 normal sections, I would roam around that section, partly to pick up a few more books for my own collection, but I have helped them find books they were after if we had a few copies or 2. Even recommended a few of my personal favorites, which I do have hard copies of my personal favorite books for those that are curious. When the two of them come in, Sally would look around to find me, as I was the one willing to help her out if I wasn't busy. If I was, Sally and her father would wait until I could, which isn't hard to locate me, as I liked to wear one of my favorite shirts, which was a bright orange shirt. Yes, I am weird like that. Her mother, who would come in to find movies, would complain and moan if we didn't have said movie that she wanted. She was one of those customers that everyone dreaded seeing coming in, as she talked down to everyone like a teacher berating a student, but much meaner. Even though I had a few run-ins with her when she couldn't find anyone in that section and the games were just across the aisle from the movies. Trust me, I had to grin and bear it a lot with this woman. When this went down, this was a few days away from the store being closed for good, and we didn't have much left on the shelves. The game section had those discount dress-up or sports games that were a dime a dozen. Books were down to scraps and self-help books. Seriously, you couldn't give those away most of the time. And phone accessories, which is where I was at the time, was down to mostly Bluetooth headsets, phone cases, and a few higher-end pieces that were locked in a special case. As per the norm for this time, Sally came in with Mrs. Toity, and all I could think was, oh God, no, as I dreaded having to deal with this lady. Up to that point, we hadn't seen her for at least a week. A new record that I wish was only 4 days longer. But sometimes the universe doesn't work that way. That jerk. But I digress. As per normal, Sally came up to me and waited for me to finish with a customer. When I was done, I turned and crouched down enough so I could be eye to eye with Sally. To break it down, she was looking for a cheap tablet she could use to read books on, which we did have a few of them left, mostly because they are the stupid cheapo ones that are good for little simple things. So after I explained that I would have to get the manager who had the only keys to the cabinet, which was part of the normal protocol, it was after this when the crap hit the fan. After we got the tablet out and the manager took it up front, because we aren't that stupid, Toity began to throw a fit that we didn't hand it to her, because she's a customer and she demands the product she wants to buy, all while Sally wanted her mother to stop. The manager just told her it was policy and walked off, which left me with the spawn of entitlement. Oh joy. Mrs. Toity.
Hey, fat butt, go get us the cabinet.
As my manager said, that goes against policy.
I don't care. I plan to buy it, and I want it now.
I can't do that. But if you need help with something else, I can.
I just want the tablet now.
Why don't you go up to the counter and ask them? I know it was a bit of a jerk move, dumping this lady off on one of my coworkers. But to be fair, they had done it to me before, so all's fair in retail. She huffs off and goes up to the counter, and Sally asked for my help getting some Bluetooth headphones for her tablet, which she was paying for, not her mother. So I go and help her find one of those nice cheap sets that works well. I'm a bit of an audio junkie, and I listen to a lot of music on my phone using my headphones. It comes from having to deliver newspapers in the boonies with no working radio to listen to. Mostly because this was so out in the boondocks that even they don't get any radio. So using my phone with headphones was my best bet. So I was familiar with a lot of different brands and can gear to which kind she likes. That's when Mrs. Toity comes back to me and demands that tablet again, as it seems that her howling at the cashiers didn't get her the tablet to walk around the store with.
Hey, Tubbo, they won't give me the tablet. I want it now.
You have no idea how much of a Veruca Salt vibe I got from her. For those who don't know who I'm talking about, Veruca Salt is the spoiled brat from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory that sings, "I want it now." and with how much of a whiny child she's acting like, she could be a dead ringer for a grown-up version of her. Ma'am, there is nothing I can do other than suggest that you go pay for it, and then you can do whatever you want with it.
I want to make sure it's something that I want to get. How am I supposed to do that?
Maybe buy it, take it home, and test the product in the comfort of your own home?
You listen here, Mr. 2 Tons. I want that tablet now, or you will regret it.
And what are you going to do? I will admit, I was semi-curious, as in what she was going to do.
I will get you fired.
In a job that I won't have in a few days? Real hollow threat there, Mrs. Toity.
Then I will get you arrested.
For what?
For assault.
Verbally, if even that. This ended up upsetting Mrs. Toity a lot. I will admit, this was oddly satisfying for me as well as some of my coworkers who weren't helping anyone. I found the latter out the following day. Sadly, my satisfaction quickly turned sour.
You fat ugly jerk!
I might be a jerk, but at least I know who I am. What's your excuse? Bear in mind, I am censoring this. It was much worse.
I bet you're a pathetic loser, that even your mother doesn't love you.
Now, while I'm not a fan of my family because of the things they have done over the years, they are still family, and we have had a lot of good moments as well as some of the bad. So this struck a very tense nerve with me, especially when I was dealing with my first year away from my family. You will leave my mother out of this. I think that clued Mrs. Toity that she had indeed struck a nerve, and she capitalized on it.
Oh, did Mommy not love you?
She began to mock in that very childish tone.
I bet she is happy being rid of a fat waste of space like you.
Sally. Mom, please leave him alone. He's pretty nice.
Quiet, Sally. Mother is talking to the fat loser.
I took a very deep breath through my nose as I clenched my fist, trying to keep some professionalism besides my shots back. But this woman was pushing buttons that were kind of raw at the moment. Excuse me, ma'am. I had said ma'am through clenched teeth to the point that I swear I could have cracked a tooth. Then I walked past her and towards the register. Something about this job is that you could only clock in and out through the register and the register only. Up to this point, I hadn't taken my lunch, and I was going to take it now before I snapped at her. Now, I know as it's stated here, it doesn't seem as bad if it comes across rather mildly. But this is the rather dumbed down and censored version, so you can imagine how much worse her insults were.
How dare you walk away from a customer like that? I demand to speak to your manager.
She yelled after me, following me. I asked one of my coworkers to step aside, who was manning one of the registers. He agrees, as one of the other ones got the manager, who came out to hear this lady's raving at how rude I had been. As soon as I was officially clocked out and no longer on the clock, which was how they factored in taking a break, that's when I finally decided to launch a full salvo of snark, because Mrs. Toity was about to be renamed Nagasaki because this fat man is going to hit his mark. That's a nuclear joke, everyone. You know what, Mrs. Toity? Let me tell you something. Slowly coming out from the register and over to the counter. Mostly the employees only counter. This way I can keep her out of my arm's reach, because I was going to hurt her if I did. No one wants to deal with your crap. Why? Because we are done dealing with an entitled, snobby, chest-thumping, pompous, snooty, bossing, swell-head, inflated, egotistical jerk like you, who seriously has a superiority complex that could rival a religion with her false, self-righteous selfishness, who thinks the world owes everything to. Here's the free reality check, since you demand getting things for cheaper or free. You are an idiot. One that no one likes, and I can guarantee that we all dread seeing you walk into the store and wish we could slap the heck out of you for all the stuff you put us through. Lucky for us that this store will be gone in a few days, so none of us will have to see you ever again. To be honest, the only good thing to ever come out of you is your daughter, who must have gotten every good bone from your body on the way out, because we all sure as heck know you don't have any more. So do us all a favor and get out of the store and stay out. This was followed by silence from the whole store. Well, outside the stereo that was playing at the time. Mrs. Toity just stood there with her mouth hung wide open as if she was trying to catch flies with a look of shock. My coworkers looked at me in surprise, as this was the first time I had let my anger out in such a fashion. The customers at the registers that were getting rung up were also quiet. Maybe some of the parents weren't happy at the language I used in my rant, but I didn't care. I walked off to the break room to calm down, as I didn't like blowing up like that, and I knew I was going to get yelled at from my boss over it. But I sat down and drank some water to wait. It was close to my break being over when the manager came into the break room and sat across from me at the only table in the room. He just sat there silently, and I will admit, panic kind of started to run on a rampage in my head. He just stared at me for a few minutes before I heard it. At first, it was a chuckle, before it became a full-blown laugh out of him. Manager: "You have no idea how much I wanted to do that to that woman," he says between fits of laughter. That's when I start to join him in his laughter. I didn't get out of this unharmed. I was told that as I technically was rude to a customer, that I wouldn't be allowed to sign back in. Granted, I may have lost a few hours of pay, but honestly, so worth it. While you can't stop stupid, but you sure as heck can blow up at it. That being said, I wanted to apologize for how long this post kind of got. I'm sure I went off on a ramble or two. I also want to thank everyone for taking the time to read this, and to those that post comments. I appreciate them, and I enjoy reading them as they help lift my spirits when I'm in a dark mood. Even the full salvos for Rees by the next Re-Generals. And to Mr. Reddit, thank you for taking the time to read and do readings of my posts. They are always awesome to hear, as well as the other fantastic posts on the channel. I do hope you're having an awesome day. Thank you for reading. Hope you enjoyed. Entitled Mom says I don't deserve a job. Hey, Mr. Reddit. Big fan. Love your vids. You have permission to share this story. Cast: we've got OP, me. We've got Entitled Mom, of course. We've got Entitled Kid, and Manager. I walk into Dunkin' Donuts, my job as a cashier and counter help. It's my first day on the job. I leave in about an hour. I got taught the basics and served customers. Then a typical Karen and her 16-year-old entitled kid walk in. I chuckled since I've watched tons of r/entitled parents videos, so I knew what was going to happen. Or did I? No. Entitled Mom and Entitled Kid walk in. Entitled Kid tells Entitled Mom,
"Hey, that's the kid from school."
to me,
"You didn't tell me you work here."
"Today's my first day. That's why."
My son came in the other day and said you weren't hiring. And now you are working? You don't deserve to work here.
They were hiring when I came in. Now, what would you like?
No, that's not fair. We have money troubles. We're lucky to have a roof over our head. My baby came in for a job too.
At that point, I already got the manager and explained to him that there was a wild Karen and her baby was looking for a job, and she's upset that I got hired.
Ah, a manager. My son came in.
Manager:
"Miss, OP explained the situation, and I'm sorry about your troubles, but we were not hired."
Shut up. Fire OP and hire my son.
Manager: next job we had available, we were planning to contact you, but since you're being verbally aggressive,
This rookie is not doing his job. He bragged about working here to my baby, saying we shouldn't even have a home. He raised his voice to us.
Ma'am, you started raising your voice to me first, and I just stayed calm and got my manager. Entitled kid.
Snitches get stitches.
Yeah, I know you were hiring. We come every day. Your employee here doesn't deserve to work here.
Manager. Not true. I watched the cameras, and you were here a week ago. And I agree, OP here isn't the best, as today is his first day. But with that attitude, he can clearly do better than your son any day of the week. Now please leave the premises before I call the police and report you for trespassing, as this has happened before.
No.
Last chance, lady. Now. He takes out his phone.
Fine, have it your way. But you will rue this day. You will rue it.
Entitled mom and entitled kid walk out. Me. How many times has this happened? Manager. Too many, OP. Too many. Sorry I made you go through this crap again. No worries. Happened too many times. I'm used to it. I got a job at Dunkin' Donuts, and Karen's kid wanted that job, but I got hired before him. Karen, of course, went crazy. Next we've got Entitled Aunt uses niece to try and get herself fired. Hello, Mr. Reddit and Re-Army. Thank you so much for reading my last story. It actually caught me by surprise, as I didn't think it was good enough for a video. That being said, sorry it was around 16 minutes long and almost took the entirety of the video. I promise this one will be shorter. Before I begin, a little disclaimer. This story did not happen to me. It happened to my wife years ago when she was younger. She doesn't have her own account, so she's piggybacking off mine. To begin with, let's introduce the cast. We've got G.E., Great Evil, my wife, as she insisted on being called. We've got Entitled Aunt, the Sewer Harpy. And we've got Mom, Great Evil's mom. And we've got Awesome Manager. We begin our tale with G.E. talking to Mom about getting some job experience. Stuff like going to a farm picking strawberries. You know, what 12-year-old kid doesn't want to do that? They continued talking about how there were so few job opportunities out there, and babysitting was out, as GE did not like taking care of babies, at least until she had my kids years later. Enter Entitled Aunt, the Wicked Witch of the Northwest. She came strolling in the house without knocking, as she so often did. She had overheard the conversation from outside the open window and had decided to butt in. Entitled Aunt, in a fake nice tone.
If GE needs some job experience, I would be happy to take her to work with me one day. I work at the same hotel/casino you do, Mom, in the hotel part, and would let GE shadow me for the day. It would be a great learning experience for her.
Mom, hesitantly. I'm not sure about that. Don't you have to get some sort of permission for her to be there?
Don't worry about it. I can set everything up with my supervisor on a Wednesday or Thursday. It will be perfectly okay.
Mom then turned to GE and asked what she wanted to do. GE, not too excited of spending the day with Entitled Aunt, began to decline when Entitled Aunt cut her off.
Of course she wants to go. She wants the job experience. I'll set it up right away.
GE rolled her eyes internally and agreed by nodding her head. Mom and Entitled Aunt continued chatting, and GE left the room. Around dinner, GE was told it was all set up. Entitled Aunt had made a phone call, and everything was approved. So Thursday came around, and GE got up at 7 to go to work with Entitled Aunt. Something seemed off, however, as Entitled Aunt was acting sweeter than normal. They get to the job, and the day begins without a hitch. Everything is going fine. Entitled Aunt was being nice, and GE even got a soda out of the vending machine in the break room for helping. GE even met some of Entitled Aunt's coworkers, and they were very nice, saying how nice it was for her to be helping out entitled aunt and how mature she was. At this point, they had not come across any management yet. GE. Your coworkers are pretty nice, but where's your boss? Why haven't I met them yet? Entitled aunt.
Probably sitting on their lazy butts somewhere. But don't worry, I'm sure you'll meet them soon enough.
GE runs out to the cart to retrieve some cleaning supplies for entitled aunt, but then something unexpected happened. New character unlocked. Scary security guard. Security guard.
What are you doing here?
GE. I'm working with my aunt for the day. Security guard eyeing her suspiciously.
I don't recall you registering at the security office.
GE getting nervous now. But entitled aunt said I could be here, and she used entitled aunt's full name. Security guard. Realization was washing over his face, losing his harsh tone.
Well, entitled aunt did not have permission for you to be here.
Enter entitled aunt. She begins shouting at security guard, going from 0 to 11 in 0.02 seconds.
Excuse me? What do you mean my niece can't be here? Another employee brought her daughter in only a week ago. What makes her so special?
She begins ranting and raving, making a whole show of it in full-on Karen mode. This is when Awesome Manager makes his grand appearance from behind GE. Awesome Manager. Excuse me, young lady. GE turns around, practically in tears at this point, and begins apologizing. Awesome Manager calms her down and begins assuring her. It's not your fault. You didn't know that entitled aunt didn't ask for permission for you to be here. GE. I was told she called here and everything was set up. Awesome Manager pats her on the shoulder. Your mother works here, doesn't she? Aren't you her daughter? Nice lady. After this, why don't we go give her a call? During this, 2 more security guards had shown up because entitled aunt's screaming had gotten that bad. They attempted to calm down entitled aunt, but it was no use. She was on a roll.
You are always signaling me out. If I'm such a bad employee, why don't you just fire me?
Calm down, entitled aunt. Nobody's getting fired over this. It's a simple misunderstanding. But as for your behavior, you will be getting written up for your attitude.
Why bother writing me up again? Just fire me and get it over with.
That's not going to happen, entitled aunt. And that's when GE realized what was going on. Entitled aunt was trying to get fired so she could take out unemployment or sue the company for wrongful termination. She never made the call to management. She had called a friend in front of mom and acted like she got permission. She had brought GE to work without permission in an attempt to get fired. Long story short, entitled aunt didn't get fired. And though she made many more attempts later, she never did get fired. She ended up outright quitting. GE's mom was called and picked her up as it was her day off and took her out for Chinese, and they both had a good laugh about how crazy entitled aunt was. Thank you for reading. GE has more stories, and if there's interest, she might even make her own Reddit profile someday. Mr. Reddit, we both give you permission to read this on YouTube. And our final story of the day. Not all superheroes wear capes. This is my first, and probably only, post, and it may be a tad long, so sorry for that. After reading a post here, I was reminded of a similar situation I had found myself in a few years ago, and thought someone might enjoy taking a minute or so to read about it. The cast. We've got me. I'm a female, 20-ish. We've got John, not his real name, and my hero. We've got entitled woman and entitled man. And so, to the meat of the story. I live in an apartment block consisting of 3 one-bedroom apartments and 3 two-bedroom apartments, with undercover parking for 1 car for the 1-bedroom and 2 spaces for the 2-bedroom apartments. There are also other parking spaces for the residents, but they are not undercover. I was at uni at the time, and had been renting a one-bedroom apartment for about 3 years, and as I didn't have, or need, a car, I didn't use my allotted space. My uni was just a short walk down the road, and the buses and trams passed right by my front door, so being without a car was no inconvenience. Also, living in one of the apartments was a middle-aged couple, mid to late 40s. I guess these two are the entitled beasties. And they would use my parking space on the proviso that if I needed it, I would let them know, and I would use it. Sometimes friends or my aunt would stay with me overnight or for a weekend. There was never any sort of problem until it became necessary for me to buy a car because I had to attend a campus at another location to do my doctorate and internship. Now, I needed to use my space and didn't think it would be an issue. After all, the couple seemed reasonable, right? They would understand, right? Not bloody likely. It all came to a head one day when I came home after putting an 18-hour day, and all that was on my mind was a hot bath and a wine, or several. I drive into the car park, and lo and behold, there is the entitled couple's car in my spot. Great, just what I need. The wife is taking stuff out of the boot, trunk to my American cousins, and the hubby is getting stuff from the back seat. When I walked up to them, I asked how long they were going to be because I need to park my car. They looked surprised as heck that I would want to use my own spot, and the wife told me to use the other parking bays at the rear of the complex. She said that they have already parked their car, and that was that. I told them that that wasn't okay, and that they had to move their car. The battle axe got right up in my face and practically snarled that it was their spot now, and there was nothing I could do about it. I was more than a little shocked at the vehemence of her reaction, and when I didn't back down, she took a swing at me with her handbag that caught me on the side of my face. As I was picking myself up, she grabbed a handful of my hair, at which point I screamed, because it felt like she was trying to tear the hair out, roots and all. Enter my hero, John. John did the maintenance around the building, and we were friendly. He would have a coffee with me occasionally, and always had a smile for everyone he spoke to. This particular day, I had seen John on a stepladder installing new CCTV cameras near the building's front entrance. This was about 30 meters from where I was. I was trying to stand up and to disengage entitled woman's hand from my hair when a hand came from nowhere, grabbed entitled woman's claw, and bent her thumb back. Instantly, her grip let go, and she dropped screaming to her knees. Oh, my hero. Now, the husband tried to intervene, but John dodged his punch and gave that entitled mom a push that sent entitled mom sprawling. So here I am, bawling like a baby. Entitled woman is on her knees, howling like a banshee, and entitled man is on his butt, looking a bit dazed. John has his arm around my shoulder, trying to calm me down, and the couple are screaming that they are going to call the police. They are going to sue, yada yada yada. My hero just takes out his phone and calls the police himself. Entitled woman and entitled man are just about crowing that my hero was going to jail and they were going to sue him for everything he owns. 2 police cars came with about 6 officers, and they separate us for our statements. No surprise that entitled woman and entitled man's version of the events are way different from ours. I saw John talking to the senior officer, and he was pointing at the cameras he had been working on, and the 2 of them went inside to check the footage, I guess. A few minutes later, they came out. The sergeant shakes John's hand and then orders the constables to handcuff the couple. OMG. If looks could kill, I could only grin like I had won the lotto. John took me up to his apartment and made me a cup of tea. Standard Aussie practice for shock, but I didn't have the heart to tell him I hate tea. And he called my aunt, who drove 2 hours to look after me. John stayed that whole time, holding my hand and telling me that everything would be okay. When I was somewhat lucid and had my wits about me, I asked John where he had learned to handle himself so well. Eventually, I had managed to coax out of him some of his life story, but not so much. As it happens that when he was a young man in the 70s, he was in the Army for a number of years and was a member of my country's elite airborne regiment. Some things you just never forget, was what he said. He seemed embarrassed by telling me even that. I learned more about him over the years. Why? Because now John is my most awesome uncle, as he and my aunt hit it off from the word go. Once again, I'm sorry that this story was so long, and I thank you for your perseverance if you made it to the end. P.S. Uncle John ended up buying the apartment complex, and he and Aunt Helen, not her real name, gave me a 2-bedroom apartment for a graduation present when I finished uni. Just another reason to love those two. 2 entitled moms in the span of 6 hours. Okay, so like I said in a previous post, I work at a pizza restaurant in my town, and I love working there. So, school started for the town on August 12th, and since I graduated a year early, I don't go to high school ever again. I have been working morning shifts like crazy due to the fact that most of the dishwashers go to school, and you can't just leave school for work. Our cast. Note, these aren't their real names. We've got Entitled Mom 1, Entitled Mom 2, me, John, my manager, Larry, the host, and we've got the blind woman. Okay, let's get to the story here. I was on my lunch break, and since I wasn't getting any dishes, I sat in one of the small booths by the front. Well, I had just taken my first bite of my pizza when I noticed a woman staring at me. I didn't think anything of it at the time, so I just shrugged it off. Not 5 minutes later, the woman walks up to me and in the most
Can I speak to your manager?
voice, she says,
Excuse me? What do you think you're doing, young man?
I'm eating my lunch? Is there a problem?
Yes, there is. I can't believe you're skipping school and ruining your future. People like you disgust me.
She then points to my shirt I'm wearing. It says, 2020 Future Graduate. The reason why I'm wearing this is because I wear crappy shirts to work, so I don't get my good shirts dirty. I look at her confused and realize that she must think I'm a high school student. I give a small chuckle and look at this woman. Oh, I graduated a year early, and I wear my school shirts to work because I have a lot of them.
Bullcrap! No one can graduate high school early. That lie might work on other people, but not me.
I did, and would you please go away? I'm on my lunch break, and I would like to eat. Entitled Mom 1 grabs me by my arm and pulls me out of the booth. I'm in shock that this lady is trying to drag me out of work. I start to yell for one of my managers to help me, but before I knew it, my manager, John, had gotten Entitled Mom 1's hands off of me and was yelling at her for what she was doing. Entitled Mom 1 begins to lie, saying that I made gestures to her and how I was going to hurt her. Yeah, my boss didn't believe a single thing that she said as he saw the whole thing, and since there wasn't really anyone in the restaurant, he heard the whole thing as well. Entitled Mom 1 gets upset and storms out of the restaurant without paying for anything. So my manager calls the cops, and about 20 minutes later, she is back with a cop by her side. The cops had found her at the school telling a teacher that there was a student skipping school at the pizza restaurant. She had to pay, and I think she was arrested or something like that. I don't really know. She is also banned from the restaurant. Now, the second entitled mom arrived a few hours later. It was near the shift change when this happened. I wasn't there for the whole story, but this is what I heard happened. We have a regular lady who comes in and always tips $20 no matter what. This lady is also blind and has a service dog named Toto. which she named from her favorite movie, The Wizard of Oz. Blind Woman was by herself, and Toto was sitting next to her under the table. Entitled Mom 2 shows up with a rather large bulldog, and this thing starts barking at Toto the moment the dog sees him. Larry, one of the hosts, asks Entitled Mom 2 to either leave or have the dog wait outside since dogs were not allowed in the restaurant. Entitled Mom 2 starts telling Larry that she will do no such thing and her dog is not a problem. She then notices Toto under the table that Blind Woman was at.
Why the heck is she allowed to have a dog in here then?
Larry: that is a service dog, ma'am, and they are allowed in here.
The sign says no dogs, so that animal must go.
No, that dog can stay here, but you must. Larry was quickly cut off as Entitled Mom 2 walks towards Blind Woman and Toto. Entitled Mom 2 tries to grab Toto, but apparently Toto bit her hand since she was being attacked. She screamed so loudly that I run out from the back to see what was going on, and the next thing I see was horrible. Entitled Mom 2 tries to hurt Toto. People begin to either pull Entitled Mom 2 away and restrain her, or they are protecting Toto from this crazy lady. The cops are called, and Entitled Mom 2 is arrested. She said that she was trying to pet the dog, but it bit her. Yeah, no one believed her for a second. One of the cops asked Blind Woman what she saw, and she said,
I didn't see anything, but I heard a lot of yelling and screaming.
We all got a good laugh out of that, and my manager didn't charge her for her meal, and she gets 25% off anytime she eats there. Toto was taken to the animal hospital and is fine and well. Yeah, my last day working is on Saturday, as I am leaving for college. Next we've got Temp Principal demands me to shave my beard. Has it backfire on him? Hi, Mr. Reddit. I like to first say thank you for reading my stories. I enjoy your videos and find it oddly surreal to hear it being told. So thank you. Secondly, I was requested by a fellow soldier of the Army to tell more of my encounters of my teachers, and after having a thought of it, I have 3 stories, which does include this one that I think you might enjoy. So, if you want to use them, you have my full permission. It's high school, and all us kids are returning from our 2-week off vacation. Sure enough, we have an assembly in the PE building. We all go in, and I look to the front to see the vice principal and our main attraction of this story. From here on out, I will refer to him as Professor. Why, you may ask? Well, to put it lightly, if he didn't fit the stereotypical arrogant, smug, glasses down nose, uptight professor from a high-end school, then I don't know what is. Even his own stance had this "I am so much smarter than all of you combined" matter. As all us kids find a place to sit, the vice principal gets our attention. He lets us know that Professor will be our temporary principal for 3 months, while our own principal would be away, so we should welcome him to our school. Then it was the professor's turn. He even spoke down to us. "Thank you, Vice Principal. While I am new to this school, I am from this other school. As I expect nothing but the best from them, I expect the same from you." In case anyone is wondering, the school he came from has one of the worst reputations in our region. So why he walked around like he won all the Nobel Prizes was beyond me. We were shortly dismissed. Fast forward to lunchtime, and I am in my usual hangout area with my friends. I should point out that I had a well-trimmed beard at the time. I'll explain later why this is important, as I am just chatting away when I see Professor walking towards us. I see him and thought, you know, I should welcome him. So that's what I did. Me. "Hi, Professor." "Professor." "Have a shave." He didn't even look at me. It wasn't even a request. It was an order. A sharp, bitter order. He just kept on walking like he owned the place while I just stood there. shocked, knowing in that moment that I was going to be in a world of hurt with him. The next day, my name gets called over the loudspeaker to go to the front office. Sure enough, I do. There, I get ushered to the principal's office, where Professor is standing there. He just points to his seat and I sit down. As I do, he starts.
You will shave.
Again, in that sharp, bitter order tone. No?
You will shave.
Me, in a jerk way. No. Professor slamming his hands on the table.
I told you to shave, so you will have a shave.
That's still a no. Professor collecting his stance, but still firm.
It's against school policy to have any kind of facial hair, so you will shave.
I smile like the Cheshire Cat. Now, I promised you why I had a beard, and in this short intermission, will show why I was smiling. You see, this was my one real time I was ever rebellious in my school years, and that I didn't know the school policy apart the basics. This little line was used on me, prior of him, by the vice principal and a fellow teacher. What I responded with was the same I gave to Professor and to the vice principal prior. Prove it. Show me where it says in the school policy that no one can have any facial hair. When you do, I will gladly shave mine off, and I expect that you will enforce the policy on yourself. He had a beard also. The other male teachers and some of the ladies too. Oh, I can be a jerk when I choose to be, or want to, or just in general. Professor quickly backpedaling in his statement.
The policy is for students.
Me, still being a smarty. It's school policy, Professor. Therefore, the teachers must also follow it too. Professor is glaring at me, rage in his eyes, clearly never been spoken to by a student.
If you do not shave, you will get detention.
I smile yet again. Why? The school I went to was in a small town, surrounded by other small towns. I lived in one said small town that was a 30-minute drive away. My only way to and from is one of the school buses. My mother, before I even started high school, told me that if I got detention, she by no means would pick me up. I took that to heart. Me looking at the phone. You want to dial, or shall I? Professor looked, taking back slightly, but quickly got back to his normal self and got my mother's number. The two talk as I am just watching his face go from determination to confusion to anger to confusion again and then defeat. He hangs up. Turning to me, furious, he knows I know full well what my mother said to him. Then he gets an idea.
You won't get detention, but for the next week, you will get in-school detention.
I was confused, as I never heard of such a thing. So I asked him what it was. He told me that next week, this was on a Friday, the start of second period, recess, third and fourth period, I would be placed into detention where he expected me to do my schoolwork. I look at him, noticing the obvious flaw in his so-called genius plan. He was punishing me by giving me free time. Professor smugly.
Now, I will give you 3 days if you shave. So, what do you say?
I stand up. I'll see you next week, Professor. Monday comes, and sure enough, I go to my in-school detention, which was just in a small room next to the front office and the principal's office that was used for parent and teacher meetings. I go in and spend my time just doodling on the whiteboard as I came to realize that I wasn't being supervised during my whole time in there. Tuesday, I didn't even bring any of my schoolwork, just some drawing books and my Game Boy. As I sat in the front office waiting area, 2 students see me. Student 1, "Hey OP, what are you doing here?" "Oh, I got in-school detention." "In-school detention?" I then explained what it was, which both of them just laughed by how sheer stupid it was. Wednesday and I have 2 new inmates. Who are they? Student 1 and Student 2. Thursday, we had 2 more. By Friday, there were 7 of us. After my time was up, I get called to the principal's office again, and there's Professor, all smug-like.
So, did we learn our lesson?
Me, with the most straightest of faces. Nope. Professor, now furious.
Get out!
I shrugged and left. Needless to say, he didn't bother me after that. My little story went wild through the school, as more and more kids were getting in-school detention because of him. He soon stopped doing it after a month because the students that were getting it, to what I can recall, was in their double digits. I was glad when he left. So here I am, in my 30s, and yes, I still have a beard. Now if you like this, do let me know, and if you want to hear more, I got 2 more stories. Mr. Grumpy and the Legend, the Myth and the Horror of the Red Dragon. And our final story of the day, Revenge Comes Twice. Hey you guys, hope you are enjoying your day. I think I have a story that fits here perfectly. England is my city, so being a UK resident, I should be able to write competently. If I don't, 1,000 apologies. I warn now, maybe a story very long. You grammar people mad much? I'll put it too long didn't read at the bottom. Cast. We've got me. I don't know who he is, you tell me, but I heard he's really good looking. We've got Heartless, the victim of the revenge. We've got Heartless's husband, my mother, best person I know. And we've got Cool Neighbor, friends with his son. Backstory. My mother had made a friend. Her name was Heartless. She had a horrible boyfriend and had just recovered from a miscarriage. This was before she warranted revenge. She asked if she could live with us. I'm not sure if she helped out with bills, but I don't believe she did. Not gonna lie, as you will see. Heartless lived with us for a while. She moved out, and that was where our story begins. The story. My mom's brother, my uncle, let her move into his property, which he let pay for rooms to live in, out to people. In my city, he lives in London. We do not. Well, her roommates couldn't stand her as she didn't pay for her part in the water, electric bills, which put the whole house behind in bills. Heartless also constantly argued with her housemates. They obviously kicked her out. Heartless actions in my uncle's other house caused a rift between my mom and her brother, as we put someone who nearly caused my uncle to lose money in his other property. They made up eventually. All these events happened in 2014. Revenge 1. Now, Heartless disappears. She resurfaced in 2017 and moved in next door to us. She didn't even come to us and say anything, not even a greeting, as for the foreseeable future, we would be neighbors. Even though I live in the prestigious city of England, big up my guy Nick Crompton, I do have a Ghanaian heritage, and people of African background, even Asian background, find it extremely rude not to greet someone you know. For example, once my friend's parents punished them for not greeting someone. It's that extreme, I'm not exaggerating, and I mean African punishment, not go to your room or grounded. Thank God my mom's not like that. So when this happened, my mom was extremely offended. One cold winter in 2018, my mom was leaving the house to go to work when suddenly Heartless's husband drove recklessly towards his house on the pavement. If my mom had left the house literally 2 seconds earlier, he would have got her. He was doing at least 25 to get to his house. What an idiot. Obviously, I was enraged, so I egged his car. I'll explain in detail later. He spent a week driving around, wondering what that eggy smell was. When he finally washed his car, he noticed the egg on the hood of his car, and he was livid. I woke to a bang on my door and shouting, fearing my mom would be mad if she found out what I did. I didn't open the door. She didn't awake, so lucky me. Our other next door neighbor opened the door. He told Heartless's husband to calm down. The following conversation ensued. I spy and laugh from my bedroom. They don't see me. Heartless's husband.
Open the door. I know you're inside.
He continues to bang on the door. Cool neighbor. Hey, what's going on? Heartless and her husband walk out of my garden and go into my cool neighbors. Heartless husband.
He threw eggs on my car. Look.
Cool neighbor. Are you sure? He's been a good person to me. Heartless, with a look of shock, screeches the famous and says,
He's been highly annoying, playing music, loud singing, and shouting loudly, and banging on the walls.
I may have been making life tough for them, but they were talking poo about my mom behind her back and also ruining friendships she had. Cool neighbor. He's never been like that with me. Do you have proof? 'Cause I can check my cameras.
Yes, check the cameras. Yes, you will see him do it.
One thing Tweedledee and Tweedledum, Heartless husband and Heartless, didn't know was I'm a master strategic. If I want to do something like throw eggs at someone's car, I'm not going to get caught. So, I waited for a time when no one would be outside, the dead of the night, ideally between 1 and 3 a.m. No camera could capture me in the act. Cool neighbor had kindly positioned the camera to overlook mine and his front and back camera. His cameras aren't night vision, so their light is the motion-activated ones in his front garden. So I never left my house. I opened the window closest to Heartless husband and Heartless driveway where their car was parked and threw the eggs. The camera wouldn't be able to see me as there was no light in the pitch black night. I obviously didn't turn the light of the room on, the actual perfect plan, so I was never caught. The real revenge. But it turns out I should have left it to karma, as a few days ago we got a letter. A letter came to our house, and we opened it before realizing it was for Heartless. Idiot never changed her mail address. It was a letter from her work. It had a report, a written out recording of a hearing between Heartless and her employer. Heartless was a carer for the elderly. She arrived late to the patient's house, watched TV, or slept, and the patient passed away. The letter stated she was watching TV when the doctor and EMT team arrived. What kind of person are you if you can't even console a grieving person? She didn't even console or offer a drink or aid the patient's husband. It said that Heartless will be reprimanded or be sacked, and as the patient's husband blames her, as it states in the letter, he said that if she wasn't sleeping, his wife would still be alive, or he could have been with her when she left. I personally hope it goes to court. Anyway, Heartless was supposed to go to a hearing with her work yesterday. However, as my mom keeps forgetting to go to the street mailbox, she may not know about the meeting she was supposed to have. In the UK, there's a mailbox for the whole area, not on every house like the US. That's why she hasn't sent it back to sender yet, but we will. I'll give an update if I find anything out. And shoutouts to our Regenerals of the day. Random Fandoms, Insert Name, Calls, and Owen Likes Ava. Become tomorrow's Regenerals by leaving as many reads as you can in the comments below, and please listen to my playlist every night when you go to sleep.